I want to welcome everybody to another In My Fields episode. I think today I'm going to talk about, are we gods or goddesses, or however you want to say it, which kind of relates back to my previous episodes of collective consciousnesses and manifesting and everything else. So are we gods or goddesses? And before we start, the usual thoughts, feelings, emotions, everything on the inside creates your outside exterior. So again, my question for everybody listening is, how are you feeling right now in this moment? And really take a moment again, just kind of dive into those feelings, become aware of your feelings, aware of who you are right now in this moment and who you want to be. I think about these things all the time, and you can pause it, you can, and I guess the question is, how am I feeling? I'm feeling optimistic, which I haven't used that word in a while. Slightly, optimistic, but also slightly, apprehensive. I don't know if that's the right word. Just because of the way I'm seeing the lay of the land and our collective consciousness, and I'm aware of my consciousness and my thoughts and my feelings and how I'm adding to the overall, exterior of the world per se, as well as my world or my universe, as well as everyone else, whether that's through the media, which I try not to pay attention to, or, us being too focused on the kind of outside world instead of understanding that we are the magnet for everything that we see. Okay, so are we gods or goddesses? First, you have to get for me, again, when I say first we, I am genuinely talking about myself, because I need to get rid of the condition that I have of who or what God is, or who or what a goddess is. And when I say God, my now terminology is everything. A man, woman, child, everything is God. It's not specific, a man or a female energy. It's not always everything. Everything is included in that. So you kind of have to drop that veil of everything we've been taught, or everything we think we know about who or what God is. And I know, religious texts is like it's a father figure, because I guess we as humans see our parents as someone who are technically our leaders up to a certain point in life. So I think that's where the terminology, the father kind of perception is, and the male kind of dominant religion. But we kind of just get all of that out the window. This is a new, fresh kind of God, of someone that I sign into, or anything else. So are we gods? I absolutely believe we are. And if you've been following my previous episodes, you would know that what I've been speaking about is, the manifesting, the creating, everything you are now is creating. So, and, Jesus says, ye are gods, you are gods. And the great news is we are. Again, I'm not diving too much into religious texts. I've just been kind of picking off certain religious points or religious texts that have kind of perceived us humans as God in a biblical term. So Genesis 1:26 says, then God said, let us make humans in our image, according to our likeness. Okay, fair enough. Genesis 2:7 reads, then the Lord God formed man of dust from the ground. He made them in divine likeness. So it wasn't a condition of, I'm not sure saying I believe this or not, but I do believe we are gods. So therefore, this has some resemblance to kind of where I'm leading to, or what I'm starting to believe in. And I see the evidence of my creation from inside myself, creating physical reality just by thoughts alone. So whether it's the house you live in, or the partner you're with, or the job you have, or the job you don't want to have, or any of that type of stuff, I can trace back all of the things in my life to my creation, to a finite detail. I'm not saying it as 100%, I cannot, but I know, for example, jobs I've had where I've been excited to have them, and then you're in them, you realize they're not right for you, and then the job starts changing. Then you start seeing negative aspects of the job, you start attracting negative aspects within the job. And then when the job is gone, you're kind of like, oh, what just happened? Without being aware of the fact that you attracted the disassociation to the job as well as the attraction to it. So we are endlessly creating. And you know, I believe that, why are we here? So God created us in his or her image so that God could know itself. And what do I mean by that? Because you can't truly know yourself until you know who you or what you aren't. And you can only do that through experience. So you know what feeling happy is because I've felt depressed. I know what happy is because I felt depressed. I know what love is because I felt fear. And you know, from my previous episodes, you know that there's only two emotions, which I believe is love and fear. Everything that, you know, is love-based, you know, happiness, enjoyment, fulfillment, pleasure, everything is kind of that element of love. I'm not saying, you know, the Disney Hollywood love, but it's a resemblance of love. It's part of the love family, and everything else is fear. You know, the jealousy, the anxiety, the depression. This is something fear-based, and that falls into that spectrum. And also, we now know who we are by who we aren't. You know, through experience, we know that we are maturing in life through age. Because we have been, I have been immature in my kind of younger days. So I know that's growth, that's evolution, that's kind of the spiritual awareness. There's an amazing saying as well. We are human beings searching for a spiritual experience. But the truth is, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. Which kind of leads me back into the kind of manifesting and, you know, the laws of attraction, thoughts, feelings, emotions, belief systems. Everything in your life is you. You are the creator. You are the God essence or the goddess essence. You are never not creating. We are always creating our life experience all the time. It does not turn off. There is no off switch. Your thoughts about something is creative, regardless of whether you think it is negative or positive or any of that type of stuff. Your thoughts are always creative, and your word is productive. And your thought and your word together are magnificently effective in giving birth to your reality. That came from conversations with God. The thoughts you are thinking right now are more obvious to you than your awareness of the thought. You notice what your mind is doing, but you don't see the mind itself. Knowing clearly what you do know is already a form of wisdom. And Abraham Hicks says something amazing too, which I actually just listened to a podcast of hers. Phenomenal. Abraham Hicks is incredible, and I've spoken about her a ton of times. The amazing power of the unresisted thought will help you create anything you want. Nothing is ever out of your reach. You just have to start feeling good about where you are right now, and it will start flooding in. So what is an unresisted thought? And that relates back to the kind of God concept of we're creators. We are constantly creating our whole reality or our whole universe in this physical form. Therefore, we are gods. It's not we are created in God's image, bar this or that or this or that. There's no restrictions. And until we utilize the power of our creative godness or goddessness, for me, the way I've harnessed that is by having unresisted thoughts. And I've spoken about this a bunch on the show. What is an unresisted thought? It's that kind of concept of, would I call it a joy thought? Yeah, I would call it a joy thought, because an unresisted thought is just something that's super easy to think about. So it could be an old friend that you had a great time with, and you think about that friend and then they text you. Or it could be a moment in life where you had a great time and then you drive past a billboard and you see something that reminds you specifically of that. It's these kind of, I call them evidence of my right path, I would say. Evidence of that what I am on the path of, whether it's teaching or understanding my awareness and the power that I have to manifest, it's giving me more evidence that this is right or this is true to me or to whatever. And I feel like that, the kind of manifesting aspect of it, which is everything in your life, everything, the physical things in your life that you've manifested. For example, how you're listening to this podcast is you physically manifested having that, whatever it is, a computer or a phone or anything. That's a physical manifestation of a thought, of an attraction that you want. Now, when I talk about, for example, you want a bigger house, you want to manifest a bigger house. I am a God, and these are the things I want. But when you understand the actual thought process that goes into manifesting a house or something, or abundance or any type of stuff, you have to understand that you have to start feeling good where you are now. And everything else will start flooding in for the things you want. Because you're thinking about something that you know is a new house, a new car. It's a time separation between, it's conditioning. It's a time separation of, I want a new car. Okay, how am I going to get that car? How long do I have to save to get that car? Okay, so then you start whittling down the manifestation of the chunks of time. And then the actual section of time comes in. When will I get it? How will I get it? All these type of things, instead of just enjoying the now and the process of getting the car. The process of, enjoying the thought process of the law of attraction to get the car. And I sometimes struggle with this notion of wanting so much so quick, and then your mind is off of that specific focus. So if you want a car, you should only really be focusing on a new car. But then life doesn't allow you to do that, or your life doesn't allow you to do that, just as mine doesn't. Because there's so many things that I want in life, I'm probably manifesting them anywhere between like a 1 or 5% rate. So, my new thought process is now, I want a small farm. I want to raise my daughter on a small farm, couple of animals, growing foods and own water source, and kind of off-grid, not really super off-grid, because I'm not that type of way inclined. Now I'm thinking about my thought processes of how I'm going to achieve those things. How much money do I need to save or have in the bank? How many investments I need to make? How long I have to work? All these type of things, which are in essence obstacles. They're not really going in the flow of my wants. They're kind of, distractions to the attraction of the want. So instead of having the unresisted thought of, I'm going to have that, boom, that's it, end of discussion. And trust, having that innate trust within yourself and me, us as gods, to create exactly what we want. And we're very good at creating exactly what we don't want. I'm really great at I used to be great at thinking negative. So therefore, as a god, I would create negative aspects in my life. I would attract negative aspects in my life. So this resonates back to the unresisted thoughts, and when you think, when an unresisted thought comes in and you see the evidence of it come straight away, you're like, oh shit. Especially when you're aware of the awareness and the power you have, you're like, oh shit, this was such an unresisted thought. How can I get that back? And then that's another obstacle that you've put in the way. It's kind of being natural with your thought process and allowing the thought process to flow through you. And also not questioning yourself, not defining yourself by your thoughts. That's, you are not your thoughts. You essentially, your thoughts should not be controlling you. You should be controlling your thoughts. And as you also attract what you fear. And I feel like it's a lot easier to attract what you fear because it's an emotion. The fear aspect, we're conditioned to think fear and to feel fear. We know what that feels like. It's very natural to us. So it's easier to attract the kind of fearful based things. When I was anxious and I was depressed and all these type of things, I saw so many negative aspects in life. So many, like now I can actually sit there and be like, wow, the reason why you saw that is because that was the law of attraction. That's the fear-based conditioning that I had within my system, within myself. And as a god, I was creating those more fear-based elements and the law of attraction to me. Now, when I think about the attraction through love, it's not as an easier concept. It's easy to feel negative. It's easy to feel anxious and depressed. It's easy to feel fear and lack of, I don't have enough of this. That's what you're attracting. That's us being gods creating that lack of. Now, if you reverse that or opposite that, and then it's the love aspect of creating within love, loving what you do is not an easy concept to kind of get over. Most of us, and I was one of them, was just doing things to do them because I felt like it was a means to an end. But it's not. It's the end of an end. It's the end of, once you get over the concept that you have to do something to do it, to pay the bills, to do this, to do that, You're creating, as a God, you're creating more situations for you to do that. And it's I know it's not easy to make the switch between letting go of everything you think you know and allowing things to flow to you by the innate trust within yourself. Because I can't manifest for anyone else, just as someone else can't manifest for me. And that's what makes us individual gods and also a collective consciousness of gods. So we're creating everything together and individually. My universe is separate from, everyone listening, but everyone listening is we're all a collective consciousness. We're all one. We're all creating as gods everything we see in the universe, in the world. Our thoughts travel vast distances as magnets to attract the things we want and things we don't want. And another example is, I speak about it all the time, health. Health is a physical we're gods. We're creating our bodies. We're creating the way we look. We're creating the way we feel about ourselves is the way we think we look to ourselves. That's why people see you different. When we have insecurities and someone says something nice to you, you brush it off because you don't believe them, because you see something different. But they see something different too. And that's how I kind of deal with my insecurities too. I've never seen myself with my own eyes, my actual own eyeballs. I've seen a reflection of myself, which is the reflection of the way I feel about myself. It's not necessarily the physical way I look to myself. It's a reflection of me. And as gods too, as a collective consciousness, we add to the consciousness of the weather. Earthquakes and tornadoes and everything else. And I've studied people who live around tornadoes. And their lives can be, somewhat in turmoil, but also they have a resilience to rebuild, And you can ask anyone. I have family who live in tornadoes areas, and this is exactly who their characteristics are. Very strong type of collective consciousness, a rebuilding pattern within themselves. And hence the attraction to living in an area that resonates with you as a character, with your attractions. And another example is, because I've spoken about this before, is meditation. Meditation is one focus. It's not sitting down and, it's none of that. It's one focus. So right now I am talking on this podcast. That's me meditating. That is my interpretation of meditation is one focus. So when you're meditating in theory, you're focusing on nothing, which is I guess focusing on nothing is a focus. But when I meditate, which I haven't done in a while, because I genuinely enjoy where I'm at right now, but I'm going to start meditating probably from tomorrow, or maybe from today. Let's do it from today. And I want to quiet the mind some more. I want some more space within my mind. I want new ideas to come in. I want some more inspiration. I want all those type of things. So, for example, I've been paying a little more attention to the news than I should do, and it's kind of dragging me back into the collective consciousness of what the news wants us to think. And the reason why I've been doing that, I have a daughter who's approaching 2, and when she hits 2, and again, as gods, this is all the kind of God's concept. We're all creating this, so no one is to blame. We are all to blame for this. We are all to blame for everything in our lives. Blame is a very strong word, but again, I don't beat around the bush. This is not, this is a practical spirituality, and accountability. And until you take accountability for everything in your life, you cannot progress as a spiritual person or progress in awareness. And I want to go through this life consciously, not unconsciously. So my daughter's approaching 2. That means the mask mandate, she's going to have to start wearing a mask. And I can't even get around the actual concept of a 2-year-old wearing a mask. It's a very difficult concept for me. Not for health reasons or any type of stuff, just the physicality of them having to wear a mask. And then going to preschool and all these type of things, she would have to wear a mask in preschool. And it's a little difficult for me to conceive this notion, especially for someone so young. And, the rest of the world, they're like 6 years old, and other things is the mask mandate. So even flying on an airplane, trying to get a mask on a 2-year-old is highly unconceivable, and to be honest, should not be allowed. And I need to start living my truth on this podcast. And there's so many things that I don't say that I want to say. I guess it's that people are too kind of fearful of repercussions, but I can only ever speak my truth. So therefore I cannot be mad at myself for that. And, the collective consciousness is we as gods have been aiding to the negative aspects of COVID and everything else. Not saying it's not negative, because obviously it is. It's affecting everybody. But like I said in my previous podcast, we needed a reset. We needed to take a step back from life. We were yes, aiding to the collective consciousness of destroying the planet and everything else. We needed a reset. We needed a break. And we're adding to that. And so I've been focusing on the aspect of the news and everything else. So meditation is one thing. So I would say to everyone, as gods, be careful kind of what your meditation is, your one focus is. And I say this because now I surround myself with things I want to see. So therefore, in my subconscious, I'm kind of adding to the collective consciousness. And again, this is a challenge for everyone I want to set, is adding to, let's make this place a more positive aspect on life. Because the only peace that can actually change the world is inner peace. And that's what I'm focusing on, is the kind of inner peace of myself. So therefore, the outside of me is peaceful, which it is. It is very peaceful. It's quiet. It's relaxed. There's no rush. And this whole concept of time as well, which as gods, we created this concept of time. But there's no rush. We put a limit on age, again, because we're gods. So we're of God. We created this kind of time concept and this kind of rushing aspect of life. I have to achieve this by this. Why do you? If I'm not rich by the age of 30, I've failed in terms of what? In terms of who? And again, practically, spiritually, I have to break these down for myself so they become more resonated and they become more understandable. And if I practically break them down, they become real for me. And that's how I have to deal with the kind of spirituality of the conversations that I have and everything else. So if you're a certain age, and I speak to a lot of young people hit me up on Instagram and talk about, they haven't achieved what they wanted to achieve and being so young. And it's easy for us to say, well, you're so young, you have nothing to worry about. But they are worried. People do worry. And it's that concept of the age. When I was that young, I was worried all the time. I didn't know what I wanted to do in life. And that used to stress me the fuck out. So which attracted more confusion. And I had many jobs, which now I fucking loved. I worked in a printing firm. I worked in, which was at the time a convenience store called Woolworths. I worked in a betting shop. I volunteered in playing soccer for kids who were on the cusp of being kicked out of school, and we call them naughty kids. But it was an amazing time. And because I didn't know what I wanted to do, I attracted jobs where I didn't know what I wanted to do. Would I say I was happy at that time? No, of course not. I was happy within the experiences, but I wasn't happy within myself. And I think it's time we come to the concept of we are gods. And it's not blasphemous or it's not any of those type of things. It says it in pretty much every religious text. We are of God. God created us in their image. I wouldn't say his image or her image, in their image, or they image. It's even a thing. So I feel like we now, as all of us listening, we have an innate responsibility to ourselves to create this inner peace. It's not easy. It's not going to be an overnight thing. It's a lifetime thing. I'm forever recreating myself and recreating the inner peace within myself because I understand the power I have to achieve those things and the power we all have. And if we all can kind of sit here and understand that we are of God, or we are these gods, and if we can just feel good about where we are, we're going to be unstoppable. And we're going to create this collective consciousness of positivity, of life changes, of things we want to see and things we want to change within ourselves. The only change that you need to make is with yourself, within yourself. No external changes need to be made. And I have this mantra that I say. I don't really believe in mantras or these type of things, but this is something that I love saying because it's reaffirming who I want to be in relationship to myself. I am rich. And you can say this too all the time. I am rich. I am love. I am health. I am wealth. I am happiness. And you can use any of those terminology, and you can add into any. I am abundance. I am, friendship. I am, all these type. You can add any of these type of things. And when I say I am rich, doesn't necessarily mean money. Richness can be in anything. I am love. Again, the whole emotion of love doesn't necessarily mean relationships. I am love. I am love within myself. I am health. I feel healthy. I feel great. And if you aren't, you can acknowledge that. I know I'm not feeling this type right now, but I know I'm going to feel healthy. I know I'm feeling anxious. This is temporary. This is part of the fear emotions. Motions. It's moving. But this is not going to last forever. I am wealth doesn't necessarily mean money. Doesn't necessarily mean it could be a wealth of knowledge. It could be a wealth of wisdom. It could be a wealth of anything. And I am happiness doesn't necessarily mean the kind of glorified version of happiness is I am okay. I'm leading myself to be happy. I'm leading to like myself enough to allow myself to be happy. I'm okay within myself to allow myself to enjoy things of happiness. So yeah, I think that's kind of where I'm at on the whole God concept and the kind of creation of everything in your life. And it's an element of God. We are elements of God. We are gods. So yeah, that's kind of it. And I want to thank everyone for listening, and I really want to hear from you guys. I'm going to put a link to the kind of, if you are listening on Apple Podcasts and everything else, I'd love for you to leave a review. I'd love to hear from you, invite some more guests on. I'm going to leave a link to kind of, leave a full detailed review and everything else, because I really, really want to know, other concepts you want me to kind of elaborate on, other ideas. If there's any books you're reading. I know people hit me up with books, concepts, and everything else, and I've read a ton, which has been amazing. So please, let me know. Hit me up with anything. I appreciate you all.